My name is Bob Darrell, and I am an alcoholic. Would you indulge me in a moment of silence, and I'll open with a prayer. Lord, help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about this program of recovery, all for a new experience in you, Lord, a new experience in myself, a new experience in others, and a much-needed new experience in this program of recovery. Amen. Well, delighted to be here. I'm surprised there's a lot of people here I know, and it's a small, AA is a big, small world. And it's kind of cool for lonely people that don't fit anywhere to have a fellowship that start to develop relationships and familiarity and history with people over the years. That's a nice thing. I prayed a lot, so I can't wait to hear what he's going to have me say. What I'm going to try to do, this is not going to be academic. I know there's a lot of academic, big book technicians and all of that in AA. We have more. I remember the 70s. I was a young kid coming in and out of AA. There was no consciousness of the big book. We've gone so far in the other direction that I often think we've shorted the traditions and the unity and service legacies for the recovery legacy. But I'm not going to do too much academic stuff here. I will read some out of the book, but the important thing is I'm going to do what people did for me that turned my life around. They just shared their experience as genuinely and as honestly as they could. They weren't trying to impress me. They weren't trying to do nothing except hope that maybe a connection could be made, and it was. In 1978, after relapsing for a number of years in a failed suicide attempt, I sat in a detox, and the Buddhists say when the student's ready, the teachers appear, and for the first time I had enough of me kicked out of me that I could hear you, and I did that thing where I just sat there and I started nodding my head. And in a depressive, scared, confused way, I started to think, my God, I'm like these people. Now, I didn't know if that was good or bad. I wasn't sure. I mean, it could have been either way. I mean, really. But I started to make that connection. And the book says until that's done, very little can be accomplished. And so I think it's more important for us to share with each other our difficulties and our struggles with the steps, our failures, our resistances, than it is the academic stuff, because those are the things we seem to connect with. And so I'm going to try to do that, and I'm going to try to be genuine as I can. One of the things that really confused me, I think of all the steps, the ones that confused me the most were step 1, step 4, and step 11. Because I had preconceived notions of what those 3 steps were about that were very erroneous. And Chuck Chamberlain used to say that it had something that was so true for me. He said, I knew so much that wasn't true, there was no room to learn anything new. And that was really the story of my life. And I had no idea what it was to admit that I was an alcoholic, admit that I was powerless over alcohol. My life had become unmanageable. And yet I sat in institutions and county jails at AA meetings and halfway houses and detoxes and treatment centers since the time I was 19, saying when called on, hi, my name's Bob and I'm an alcoholic. And I got to tell you something, I had no idea what I was talking about. Here's what I'm really saying, if you want to know the truth. What I'm really saying is, you're all looking at me. I'm pretty screwed up here. I don't want any problems, so I'm going to say what that guy said. That's really what I'm saying. I just back off is really what I'm saying. I'm here. I'm in. Whatever it takes just to leave me alone, I'm in. And so, but I had no idea. I knew I was in trouble. I mean, for God's sakes, I kept burning my life to the ground over and over again. I lived the progression of this disease. And those of you who have been relapsers for a number of years, it's a painful process because it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And then it gets so bad you think, oh my God, it can't get any worse. And it gets worse. And then the worst of all, it gets the same. And then every day is this same. I can't get well. I'm sick. I can't get unsick, really. I get oblivion. That's about it. It was horrible at the end. I drank in depression. I drank in this horrid loneliness. So I didn't understand what people said when they said their name and they're an alcoholic. I thought they were saying I'm in trouble and need help. And I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous that I was an alcoholic, and I learned it at a level that's beyond the chatter in my head, beyond the cognizant. I learned it experientially. Or as it says in chapter 3, when it talks about step 1, it says we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The intellectual knowledge that I'm alcoholic is too shallow for transformation. Because I could do that. I could watch the Father Martin movies and listen to the doctor talk about the acetane in the brain and the chemical, and intellectually understand I was an alcoholic. And I could say the words, I'm powerless over alcohol. But if you'd have watched my feet when I got out of that place, I didn't act like someone who meant any of that. Because in my heart of hearts, I really wasn't powerless. I got this, thank you. I got an ego that tells me that information is power. And I think now that I have the information, I have the power to change my life, and I didn't. If knowledge is anything, it's not power. If it's anything, it seems to be, for me, fodder for my ego. It puffs me up into some false sense of okayness, of significance, of like, I got this. And I didn't know what I had. And I came into Alcoholics Anonymous when I was young, and I was in and out for a number of years. And I sat in a meeting, I'll never forget this, and I sat in a meeting probably in mid-70s as a young kid. And I listened to a woman tell a story about something that had happened to her. And I started to find myself in here in a way that I never knew before. A way that corresponds to the doctor's opinion. And Silkworth talks about something here that I couldn't understand until I connected with you. He says that he says people like me, we have this allergic reaction to alcohol. But unlike several allergies, like if you're allergic to strawberries and you eat strawberries, you break out in hives. I don't break out in hives. I break out in what he refers to as this phenomenon of craving. Well, I remember sitting in meetings and people talking about that, and I don't have that. I don't have that. I mean, I'm in trouble. I drink and I go a little too far, but a lot of people do. I mean, guys I drink with drink too much sometimes. I'm not an alcoholic. I couldn't see the craving. And here I am, I'm sitting in a meeting in the mid-70s listening to a woman talk about being sober for a while, going to a dinner party, and having a glass of wine, and then she talked about what happened to her after she had the glass of wine. And the light went on. One of the reasons I couldn't see that I had this allergic reaction to alcohol, this phenomenon of craving, is that I always avoided situations where I could only have a couple drinks and then couldn't get any more. I mean, I don't do that because I think I'm alcoholic. It just seems like, well, what's the point? I remember going to a guy's house in junior high school. And it was Sunday, couldn't get anything else. He had 1 6-pack of beer, 3 guys. I did the math, no thanks. And it wasn't because I thought I'm an alcoholic. I just, that's not going to be fun. Now, if you had 3 cases, I'm your guy. I'm right there with you. And I don't do that because I'm an alcoholic. I do that just because it's intuitive with me, and as it is with most of us. So what happened is I couldn't see the craving because, like all cravings, you don't realize you have it until you can't satisfy it. Everyone in this room, right at this second, is in the grip of a craving you're not aware of it, the craving to breathe air. But if someone behind you would slip a plastic bag over your head, you'd instantly realize you have a craving to breathe air because you can't satisfy it. And here I am, I'm a young kid, and I'm sitting in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this woman's talking about her experience, and all of a sudden, my mind went back to one of the rare instances where I had some alcohol and then couldn't get any more. And what had happened is I was about 18 years old. I was dating a girl, and she wanted me to come over and have dinner at her house with her parents and spend the evening there. And I've always been a tad self-conscious, but I don't like being under the microscope, but I'm trying to be a good guy, and I went and sat down at the dinner table, and they brought out a bottle of wine. Now, wasn't the kind of bottle of wine I'd have bought. This was a little wimpy nothing bottle, Al-Anon bottle of wine is what it was, right? Low alcohol, like 11% or I think it was something like Blue Nun or Black Cat or something. I don't know. I wouldn't have bought that wine. I like 20% alcohol. I like wine that hasn't been 50 miles close to a grape. I like where you read the ingredients, it says things like neutral grain spirits and grape flavoring. I mean, that's the kind of wine I like, right? Because that's take you downtown now wine. This is not like, this is a little wimpy bottle. And I'm at a phase in my life, as so many alcoholics, chronic alcoholics of my time, where I was in the flag I was marching. I was a wannabe rock star. It was all wannabe, really. I mean, I marched to the flag of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, at least 2 of those, because we're busy. And you could have put me on a lie detector and said to me, Bob, is there any way you're alcoholic? And I would have said, absolutely not. And I bet you it would have said I was telling the truth. Now, if you would have pressed me, I may have told you that earlier in my life, earlier in my adolescence, that I'd had a terrible problem with alcohol. Matter of fact, first time I ever got sent away at almost 16, it was all as a result of alcohol. But I'll tell you, you do enough drugs, you can beat an alcohol problem. and that's what happened to me, but for a few years. And then I came full circle back to alcohol. So I am not an alcoholic, but yet I sit down at the dinner table, they have a bottle of wine, they pour us all a glass, and I have always drank quickly. I think evaporation, some secret childhood issue or something with me. I don't know what that's about, but I drink fast. Because I drink fast, I've killed 2 glasses out of that bottle of wine. They're still sipping on the first glass and the bottle's dead. Well, I got 2 glasses of wine in me. I don't know nothing about nothing. And I'm sitting there, and the first thing I noticed, I started getting a little uncomfortable. The conversation at the dinner table that earlier had been okay is now starting to become tedious and stupid. But I don't say anything, right? Because I'm a nice guy, and I don't say nothing. I just sit there, and I finally blurted out. I said, God, that was good wine. Do you have any more? And they said no, and they went back to talking about Vietnam and sports and movies and stuff, and I'm sitting there, I got 2 glasses of wine in me, and I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. I'm just spinning in my head. I'm so uncomfortable. I finally blurted out. I said, well, I like beer. And they said, well, we don't have any beer. We don't have nothing. Next time you come over, we'll get you a 6-pack of beer. And they went back to talking. And I'm losing it here. And I don't know what to do. So I excuse myself from the table. I go to their bathroom. I lock the door, and like a crazy person, I go through their cabinets, and I find a bottle of cough medicine that was unopened, 35% alcohol with codeine and terpene hydrate, which is a bonus. And I remember sitting on the edge of that bathtub, just like a frantic, opening that and chugging that whole bottle of cough medicine, and all that spinning in my head just went. I was able to focus. I was able to think straight. I was able to sit there and come up with a story, and I went back out to the dinner table. I explained to them about this thing that I had forgotten about, that I had to take care of, and I was so sorry to leave. And they were very nice about it, and I went and got my car, which was sitting right out in the curb in front of their house. I drove down their street 20, 25 miles an hour like you're supposed to, turned the corner, got out of sight, and I drove like an insane maniac, 70, 80 miles an hour to get to my friend Brett's house, because Brett had some Thai stick in a bar, in his open bar in his basement. And that all happened because of 2 glasses of wine. I was the only person at that dinner table that was alcoholic, because other people have been alcoholic. We'd all been in that bathroom going through those cabinets. But something happens to me, and it only happens to people with alcoholism, regardless. And what's so confusing to so many people today is that a lot of alcoholics end up in trouble sometimes because they get arrested for the other substances they're taking, and they think that that's the problem. It's almost like a guy laying on the railroad tracks, and he's just about dead because he's been run over by a train, and all he sees pulling away is the caboose, and he thinks, it was the caboose. It was the engine. And if he goes back, the engine, the thing that starts it in motion, is an allergic reaction to alcohol. Every time I've ever drank alcohol, the same thing happens to me with a consistency. As I feel the effect of the alcohol, I break out in an irresistible yearning for more. I've always had that. I've never not had that reaction to alcohol, never. I can't tell you one moment, anytime, anywhere, where I've been drinking, maybe in the bar with my buddies, doing shots and beers, shooting pool, drinking for an hour, and had one of the guys say, hey, Bob, let me buy you another one. I've never had the experience of looking at him and thinking to myself, you know, I'm good, thanks. I've never been there. Not one. Now, you'd think in all those years there'd be 1 or 2 experiences where you got enough. I never got enough. And if you can't get enough, you're always doomed to have too much. And I had no idea that this reaction was occurring in me. And one of the reasons that it's so insidious and so baffling is it uses my own mind against me. See, I don't know that the phenomenon of craving, when it's initiated, how it changes my perception and my thinking. What happens is I don't think it's a craving. I think I've changed my mind. I went in there and I'm in trouble. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what I did. Oh, geez, oh man, last night. Ooh, I can't do that again. I can't do that again. Now, I'm not looking at the idea of not drinking at all. I mean, that's silly. But what I think to myself is 8 drinks. 8's good. I don't think I've ever gotten in trouble on 8. So it's somewhere north of 12, I think. I think 8's a pretty safe deal. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna have, because I gotta have some kind of something to take the edge. I'm gonna have 8. 8's good. 8's good. 8's good. Did you ever know? If you've ever tried that, did you ever notice somewhere in the beginning of the 7th drink, it just becomes so apparent that 8's a bad number. It's a bad number. It's not a good number. It's 10. 10 is a good number. 8's not a good number. And see, I don't know that it's an allergic reaction to alcohol because it uses my own mind against me, and I think I'm just changing my mind. Well, Silkworth says, these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Once having formed this habit, they found they cannot break it. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And boy, is that true. What happens to me is I'm so overwhelmed by the consequences of my drinking that I can't see what's killing me. Because, by the time I get sober, man, I just got problems up to here. Some are imagined, some are real. I imagine problems. Like, it's a gift with me. Do you ever just sit and check your life and all of a sudden you see problems that you're sure glad you looked because you wouldn't have noticed? I mean, did you ever look at your future and just say, oh my God, I'm glad I'm looking because that's going to be a problem. I can see it coming. I'm overwhelmed with problems. I'm up to here. Now, some of them are real because I got legal problems. When I got sober in '78, I was facing 2 years in a state penitentiary. When I got sober in '78, I had no one that would talk to me out of my past. There was no one left that ever knew me that would have anything to do with me. My mother and father, my sister, ex-girlfriends, people I'd run with, nobody would have anything to do with me anymore. There's a loneliness about that. I can't hold a job, and I've had a lot of them. But I'd like to blame it on drinking, but I can't hold a job sober. I don't know how to go to work and get along with people. From day 3, probably, after the shine of being the new kid wears off and they start treating me like everybody else, I start building cases against them. I mean, I worked a lot of places. I never worked anywhere where they did it right. And I'm always the guy that's leaving. Some of those places have been doing it wrong successfully for decades. So I got problems with employment. I got emotional problems. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm a depressive by nature. And I can be sitting somewhere and nothing's bothering me, and all of a sudden, just as a result of me thinking, just implode into a deep depression. I'm an anxiety guy who gets almost to the point at times of panic when I start worrying about stuff. I'm a guy who just builds cases on people. I did it in AA, I did it in work, I did it treatment, I did it everywhere I ever went. I have this ability to walk into a room and just, people I don't even know, just know by their body language that I don't like them. Just know that. And start building the case. Or, because I'm basically a guy that if I suspect you don't like me, I'm going to not like you first. And I suspect that of everybody, right? And so there's a pathetic loneliness about me. And so I get sober, and I got all this stuff up to here. And people in AA saying, your problem's alcoholism. Yeah, but look at this. Look at all this, for God's sakes. And it's almost as if you want me to put all that stuff on a shelf and throw myself into AA when all these problems are clamoring at me. And I tried to fix all the problems time and time again, and I always ended up drinking again. And it's not that those things don't get straightened out. They get straightened out through God's grace and time and through the steps and amends and a lot of different things, but not through willful effort. So my problems seem astonishingly difficult to solve, almost to the point of hopelessness. And my alcoholic mind likes to paint a hopeless picture because then it has me. Then it has me. Well, if all there was to alcoholism was an allergic reaction to alcohol, then maybe not on the first treatment center, but probably on the third, when I was in a lot more trouble, you would have told me, my God, Bob, you can't take the first one. For you to pick up a drink of alcohol, Bob, that's like having sex with a gorilla. You ain't done till the gorilla's done. And I get it. I'd go, oh yeah, that's right. Every single time, I get it. And I'd make up my mind to never take the first one, and I'd be home free. I thought that at one time as I sat in a meeting, and the light came on, and the veil lifted, and I could see that I had that reaction. And I thought I was home free. And in truth, I was entering with the knowledge that I can't take the first drink, coupled with the most sincere desire a person is capable of not to take the first drink. With both of those in place, I entered into the most horrific and painful years of my life because I didn't have the power to carry it out. And I thought I did, and I didn't understand why I kept failing. But there's something more to this disease, and it's what makes it a fatal disease. And Silkworth is the first, in the doctor's opinion, it's the first place he starts to shed a little bit of light on what the real problem of alcoholism is. And he's in the bottom of page XXVIII, Silky starts talking about us when we're sober. The very last two lines on the page, he's talking about sober, and he's describing symptoms. Symptoms of what I've come to believe are symptoms of what the book calls a spiritual malady, a spiritual illness. It's my very being isn't right when I'm sober. And he says that guys like me, when I get sober, I'm restless, I'm irritable, and I'm discontented unless I can again experience that sense of ease and comfort which I found at once by taking a few drinks which I now see others taking with impunity. So what does that mean? Well, every single time I get sober often with high hope. I get sober because I was accepted, when I was in senior year in high school, I was accepted to Ivy League colleges. I had the highest SAT scores in my school, and it was a college prep school. I was slated for like success. People all my life I had a high IQ. They were telling me about my potential. Anybody ever tell you about your potential? Where is it when you need it? You know what I mean? It's like, I'd be laying in the gutter somewhere, just hating people, thinking, if I could find my potential, I'd unleash it on them. I'll tell you, I don't know what that is. And I'm sober and I'm restless. I don't know why. I don't know what. I can't, it's a funny, subtle, vague restlessness at times. It's just this squirmy little feeling like I can't get settled anywhere the way others seem to be settled into life. You ever watch a dog circle a living room looking for its spot to lie down? I'm a dog that can't find its spot. I don't know where, I don't belong anywhere. I don't have a spot. Wherever I go, whoever I'm with, that's not it. I don't know where it is, but it ain't where I'm at. The second symptom, besides the restlessness, is irritability. He says we're restless, we're irritable. Well, I am not irritable. First of all, irritable people irritate me, man. I don't like irritable people. I don't like uptight people. I'm not irritable, but what I am is I'm just so brilliant that when I get sober, I see how stupid everybody is. It's just a gift, I guess. I don't know. Everywhere I look, I see stupid people. I see stupid people in the grocery store. Did you ever go to a grocery store with about a month sober, untreated alcoholism? Did you ever watch what people buy? gallon of ice cream, 6-pack of Diet Coke. Stupid people in the grocery store. Traffic, stupid people in traffic. Oh my God, they're either driving like crazy people, maniacs, too fast, or they're driving pathetically too slow. No, but I can't, I'm not like Goldilocks. There's no just right. There is no just right. I go to work, everywhere I work, stupid people. And then what's really irritating, I'm always, from the time I was 19 to the time I got sober, I am always forced into attending AA meetings for one reason or another. And my God, they got the stupid people grouped in AA, I'll tell you. Oh my God, everybody talks in cliches, first things first, easy does it, live, let go and let go. I felt like I was being stoned to death by refrigerator magnets from a recovery bookstore. Just like, stop it. I don't get it. I don't need homilies. I need money and a girlfriend's what I need. I don't need I don't need cliches, I don't need little positive thinking statements. I don't need any of that. Oh, God. And you say the weirdest things. I had a lot, my mother was a therapist, and I had a lot of therapy with some great, great psychiatrists. And I worked in the field for a while. I was AHP. I went to so many seminars, so many workshops, because I believed that knowledge was power. That if I had enough information about the workings of my mind and emotions and life itself and the philosophy of life itself, that I could beat this thing. I don't even know what's wrong with me, but for God's sakes, something is. I never did find out. Matter of fact, the more knowledge I sought, it seemed like the sicker I got. And I go to AA, and my first reaction to Alcoholics Anonymous is, it's like I'm intellectually offended by what I hear in the rooms. It's such sophomoric self-help crap, with a like a saccharine sweetness to it, it's just horrible. First of all, I end up in AA not at a high point in my life. I have never ended up here at a high. I always end up here after I just burnt my life to the ground. I feel horrible. I'm so full of shame and remorse. There's hopelessness all around me. It's a bad deal. And I sit in meetings and listen to an endless procession of people tell me how grateful they are and how wonderful their life is. I remember sitting in a halfway house. I just so, oh God, at one of the low points, I just feel bad. And listening to all you people tell me about your miracles and all how grateful you are. I remember sitting there thinking, I've gone to hell. Isn't it bad enough that I've ruined my life and then I have to spend the rest of my life having my face rubbed in how wonderful you are? And the people love it. Love. Everybody loves everybody. Love everybody. Just love everybody. Oh, jeez. I don't love anybody. I don't even like anybody. I don't like me. I hate me, really, truthfully. Love everybody. Oh, do you ever have somebody, you're new and you don't feel very good? Somebody comes up to you and they says, has anyone told you they love you today? I know, where's the door? I got to get out of here, you know what I mean? This is creepy to me. Oh, and then God did this, God did that. Oh, geez, oh, stop it. Oh, man, it's offensive to me. I'm an atheist. Well, not really an atheist. I want to be an atheist. I'd like to be an atheist. I've known some atheists, and real atheists are very religious about their atheism. I can't get that much angst about it. I'm just so afraid of God. I'm afraid if there is a God, man, I must be in a lot of trouble here. It's odd. When I had my introduction to spirituality and religion as a kid, and it was through the venue of Catholicism, but it could have been anything. what happens is I bring an alcoholic mind to the table. And if you have an alcoholic mind, and you may, if you're like me, you may be like this today at times, where you will quickly notice the negative and never even see the positive. Right? I look back over my childhood, I could tell you everything wrong my parents ever did. I could never tell you the right things, and the right things way outweighed the wrong. But I don't notice right. I only notice problems. My mind, it exists to do threat assessments. It's like a problem-seeking missile. So I don't see or hear about a God of love. That's not a problem. I don't even hear that. But I hear about a God of judgment. I hear about a God of punishment. I hear about a God that created hell and purgatory. And I hear that because that's a potential problem. Wilson says the reason, he talks about why we're like that in the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And he says that we talk a lot about problems, and then he goes and tells us why. He says, well, because we're problem people. Did you ever see that movie Sixth Sense, where that little kid walks around and says, I see dead people? I see problems everywhere I look. And so I didn't hear about the positive things about God. I didn't hear, there were kids I went to school with that just were in love with God. I didn't hear what they heard. I heard about a God of judgment. I heard about a God who could see in the dark, which, that's not a good thing at all, man. He not only would judge me for what I did, he would judge me and punish me for what I thought. I had this nun in grade school, and God, she was a young nun. I think she might have been pretty if it wouldn't have been for all the hardware. I don't know. But she used to say, we must be pure of thought, word, and deed. Now, I'm in grade school. I'm a little kid. I haven't done anything wrong. I mean, really maybe lied to my mom about how much candy I ate. Nothing stuff. I'm a pretty good kid, actually. And I'm sitting there, and she's saying that, and my mind pictures her naked. And I'm horrified because I can't stop thinking about it, right? Because that sin's not even in the books. I mean, you can't go into the church and get in that little wooden box with that priest and tell him that. He'll come out there and beat the crap out of you. So it's another brick in the wall that I cower behind, knowing that I'm unique and knowing that my case is different. And it's not different. I've come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I find rooms full of people that had they had such a problem with God that they had to put a chapter in the book, We Agnostics. And it doesn't matter if you're a minister or a priest or an atheist or an agnostic. We all got a little bit of problem here, right? And some of it goes deep down into us. So I'm irritable all the time. I just angst up over everything. And here's the kind of guy I am. I get all these little judgments and these little resentments. I don't even know they're resentments, because I don't think they're resentments. Because if you're right, they're not really a resentment, are they? And I get all these things I'm right about. And until what happens is it just overwhelms me, and I always implode. Angst up, I implode into a depression because the things that are making me nuts, the truth is, I can't do anything about them. I can't change them. And I don't know how to let go in here. And so I'm a depressive by nature. And then the last symptom that Silkworth talks about is malcontent. He said we're discontented. And that is, I've always been that way. I try to hide it because I seem to live in a world of happy people. I'm not happy. I remember being sober about 4 weeks, and I'm walking through this mall, shopping district, and people are just walking around smiling. for nothing. They're not high, they're they're happy, just happy for nothing. I just look at them and think, what the heck's that about? Because I ain't happy. And I try to be happy. I live in a world that seems like everybody's happy, or most people seem to be pretty happy. So I have a mind that just starts running possible scenarios on how I'm going to be happy. I am obsessed with fixing me. And I notice that happy people have certain things. I had a friend, he was pretty happy. He had a dynamite-looking girlfriend. He had a Harley. Had a nice place to live. Okay, I get it. So I get that job. I wanted the big money job, and I start putting those things together. And it's a funny